start because there's lots to delve into. First of all, let's get one thing straight. One thing. Football's not about deserving. Football is about doing. Football is about executing. Football is about getting the job done. So, any of those that say, oh, but they deserve so much more. Boca did so much today. Yes, they did. But they didn't do the most important thing, which was score. They had a chance to be able to kill off the tie. Why? Because Corinthians rarely I don't even think Corinthians shot on goal today. Maybe once, maybe twice. I'll be generous. I'll give them 3. Okay? I'll give them 3. But Boca had chances. They monopolized the ball. They basically, one half of La Bombonera's pitch ended up getting a severe workout, ended up getting severely worked. The other side, well, it was just a bit of a formality, and it was, thank goodness that you switch in halves, because if not, then the distribution of the abuse would have been quite one-sided. It's not about deserving, it's about executing. Who played better? Yeah, Boca played better, you could say. But it's not about necessarily playing better. It's about executing your game plan the best. And Corinthians did that. And that's one thing that you have to understand. That going into La Bombonera, or going into this return leg, Corinthians were decimated with injuries. So you have to make do with what you have. And they kind of did their best with what little they were able to muster up. And that's what they had, and that's what there is, and that is no more. That's all. There is no more. That's exactly what you end up getting with a team like Corinthians right now. Now, when their injuries, or when the players that are injured end up getting recovered, maybe that's a different story. We'll end up seeing how things are when they face either Deportes Tolima or Flamengo. That might be a different story. That might be a different team. Do they have the potential? Yes. But that ends up being a story that one can't tell because that's more coming out of the land of supposition. We have to talk about the here and now. And it was a team that was very limited. It was a team that was able to execute very well. Keep in mind, when Boca played out wide, notice how that backline of 5 was able to create 1v2s and prevent Boca from being able to clearly play that ball in the middle. The crosses that were being sent were overshot, barely being able to create shots how Sebastián Villa usually does if you watch the Argentine league, when he cuts back inside and is able to find the angle to be able to take those shots. Corinthians didn't offer that. Usually it was running down the byline, seeing what he could cross, and more often than not, he did what he could. Frank Fabra did the same thing. It was adequate what they were able to do, but that was it. On the right side, the same thing. You had a player that was going after it in Advíncula, who's quickly become a fan favorite because of the effort, because of the desire that he puts forth, but also trying to play it as intelligently as he possibly could. Advíncula was one of the few players who was able to run into the middle. Imagine your right back is the one that was able to make the best incursion into the middle. That ends up being quite preoccupying. And it was that was it. There was nothing else. Yes, they were able to monopolize the ball. They moved the ball around. They had it back and forth. They swung it from one side to the other. They switched it. They brought it back. Well, but it was just, well, this is what we're going to do. And rarely did you ever see a shift from that. And at that point, you have to blame the coach. Say, hey, you have to find something else because you're getting predictable. And by the time you get predictable, Corinthians adjusted, they slammed the door shut on you, and you didn't answer back. It's fine, yeah, send the crosses in. They're imprecise. We'll take imprecise crosses all day. You're not truly creating any serious opportunities in front of our goal. Go, do it. They're basically daring them to, and Boca still couldn't do it. So again, it's not about deserving, it's about doing. It's about merits, not necessarily. It's about being able to go and say, you know what? It's 1-0, 2-0. Football is appreciated based on methods, but it's measured on results. And sometimes the two do come together. Sometimes the two never do. They just go on parallel paths. And that's when you start to see the debate. What is it better to win 1-0 and grind through, or is it better to lose 2-0 and look good? That ends up being the proverbial question that will forever be asked. And sometimes coaches hold on to that, just like coaches hold on to winning and grinding and just, using your teeth and your nails to be able to get a 1-0 result. One is necessary, and so is the other, depending on the context of the match. Sometimes you can't play pretty. Sometimes you need to be more elegant to be able to bring forth an idea and bring it to fruition. Boca didn't do any. And Corinthians played what they did because of the limitations they had, and they were a very limited team. Very limited team. But again, you understand in that situation. So therefore, you start to look at these things and you start to understand a vast and very complex situation that Boca's going through, because it's not just what goes on the pitch. It's everything else that's going on in that Boca world, in that whole Boca universe, if you will. That a result hinged on Sebastián Bataglia and the team. And when you start looking at it from that perspective, this is what they are measured in. They're measured in Copa Libertadores. They can win the Argentine League, which they have. If you look from 2017 to now, Boca's the team that's won the most domestic leagues. Not River. River's only won one since 2015. But yet, the team that everyone looks to be measured by is River, not Boca. Because for many years, it's not just now, it's not just one complaining, it's been for years, through coaches, through cycles, through presidents, that Boca's had a lot of struggles. And it continues today. And it is quite evident today, because now you're starting to see that these players that maybe shine in some moments, maybe they aren't cut out to be what they are, or what they need to be, or what they must be, or what they're required to be. Am I saying get rid of everyone? No, not necessarily. It's a team that needs to have a bit more self-awareness, and a coach that needs to have a little bit more daring, and a coach that needs to go out and fine, if I made one substitute, one, when you could have made 2 or 3, maybe even 4 substitutions. But it's that fear, well, if I take out a midfielder and put in a forward, and what if I lose? Well, what if you lost without doing it? Would it have changed the result? Probably not. But you need to understand that sometimes you need change. Sometimes you need... Am I saying to sack Sebastián Bataglia? No. And he's still kind of getting groomed. He's still learning and having to learn in one of the cruelest ways possible, which is coaching a big club and making the mistakes with a big club and going to be absolutely grilled for the next 3 days. Because now, not only is it the fact that they lost Libertadores, it's the fact that they completely put aside a league tournament, and they also lost 2 matches at home. So it's the 3rd time that they get a negative result in consecutive dates in their own backyard. They lose track. They end up dropping points. They end up losing in terms of reference. And then they have a big match against San Lorenzo this weekend, which is going to have to be their focus from here on out. You can't have 6 months of nothing if you're Boca. And say, well, we're going to wait till Libertadores next year to compete again. No, you can't do that. You're not given that luxury, especially with the investment, especially with the players. And also, if you're trying to woo players, well, it's not too seductive to say, well, we're just going to kind of cruise it and wing it from now until October, November. And then we'll come back in February and everything's fine. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. They have to compete for everything. They have to win everything. They're obligated to win the league now. Maybe. That's just me talking. But keep in mind that all of a sudden, this whole can of worms is opened up because no one, at least the people that cover Boca, they never expected Corinthians to be able to advance the way they did. And that's a harsh reality. I'm being completely real here. That's one of the big issues that they had. And that ends up being one of the big problems for Boca going into 2023. Who do you keep? Who ends up leaving? Yeah, we can talk about all that. Of course, there's other rabbit holes I could talk and get into, but I'd never be able to get out of if I start talking about the political aspect, the future of Juan Román Riquelme, the problems that Juan Román Riquelme finds himself in within AFA and within CONMEBOL, and of course the battle that Boca has with the media in Argentina, which they do find themselves in. I'm kind of exaggerating it a little bit, but there's a reason why Boca is constantly in the news and why Boca is so much rating. Of course, tomorrow it will be constantly all Boca, all the time, in every place, in all television networks tomorrow in Argentina. But also, like I said, give credit to Corinthians. Corinthians came in with the game plan that they needed to execute, and they executed it well. And they suffered through it, and Casio was brilliant. Casio was brilliant in two legs. So was Agustin Rossi, let me be honest with you on that. Were there good players for Boca? Yes, there were. Today, Rojo played very well. Advíncula played very well. Fabra was pretty good. Izquierdos was pretty good. Villa was serviceable. Paul Fernandez found himself a bit intermittent. Romero was trying to find ways, but neither Romero nor Paul Fernandez were able to find any action just outside of the 18 or inside of the 18. Ceballos came in and was once again trying to be as electric as he possibly could. He sends that ball into Benedetto, who was just an absolute disaster. I saw people saying, oh, he should try out for... Guys, he also missed a PAT. He also missed a field goal. That's how bad that penalty was. I'm talking about the second one. He missed a field goal. I mean, he was going wide right on his penalty kick. He went wide right. He missed not only a penalty, he missed a 2-point conversion in rugby. He missed an extra point in American football. That's how bad his penalty was. It wasn't even close. He's the butt of every single joke. He's the butt of Corinthians jokes right now. And in part is because he's been very try-hard leader. He's not a leader like that. His leadership comes from scoring goals and being efficient up top. It's not from being the tough guy and being the captain and trying to lead you into battle. No, that's not his style of leadership. His style of leadership is executing and performing. And that's been one of the big problems with this version, this reincarnation of Darío Benedetto. Of course, I saw a Mexican journalist trying to go after him. Yeah, the same Mexican journalist that a few years ago said, oh, we have an addict as a coach. That was the headline of the article. That was the journalist that went after him. Sometimes you have to laugh, but you have to be real, and you have to know where those criticisms come from. But Benedetto had a horrid game, so much so that I understand that as a competitor, you want to go and make things right. Today wasn't that day because nothing went right for Darío Benedetto. Nothing. He missed a 1v1. He missed a wonderful ball that was sent to him by Ceballos. And of course, he ends up missing the... So when you're having a bad day, let someone else take over. Find different ways to contribute. And Benedetto never found that. Of course, we can also criticize Ramirez, who just seemed scared. It's like, oh, the way he hit that ball, it seemed like he was scared of the ball. And Sebastián Villa, of course, well, So, again, understand why these things happen. Because in the next few days, you're going to get 25 million explanations as to why. Why? Because it's good ratings. Why? Because it attracts attention. Why? Well, that's an easy answer. The team in crisis is in crisis again. You know, man.